Have you ever wondered if there's a direct correlation between education and good judgment? Let's dive into a story to explore this idea. Meet our protagonist, a humble hot dog vendor. He was a man of simple means and simpler pleasures. Illiterate, hard of hearing, and with failing eyesight, he was cut off from the world of newspapers, radios, and televisions. But he had something that transcended the need for these: an infectious enthusiasm and an unwavering commitment to his trade. And boy, was he good at it. He sold hot dogs like hotcakes, and his business thrived. Imagine a man who couldn't read the day's headlines or tune into the evening news, yet his thriving hot dog stand was a testament to his success. He ordered more meat, invested in a bigger stove, and his profits soared. He was living proof that formal education wasn't a prerequisite for success. Now picture this. As his business was blossoming, a new character enters our story. The vendor's son, fresh out of college, brimming with knowledge from textbooks and lectures, joined his father's venture. He was the complete opposite of his father: educated, aware of the world's workings, and tuned into every piece of news. The son, alarmed by the impending economic recession he'd read about, warned his father about the tough times ahead. The father, who'd always believed in hard work and dedication, was suddenly faced with a new perspective. He respected his son's education and felt he should heed his advice. After all, his son had been to college, read the papers, and listened to the radio. Surely he knew better, right? So the father did something he'd never done before. He cut down his meat and bun orders, took down his sign, and his once enthusiastic spirit dampened. Just when everything was going well, a new character enters our story, the vendor's college-educated son. And with him, he brought a change that would challenge everything the vendor had believed in. But was this change for the better or for worse? We'll find out in the next scene. Armed with a fresh college degree and a mind full of theories, the son brings with him a warning of a coming recession. He begins to paint a grim picture of the future, his words laden with terms and concepts learned from textbooks and lectures. "Dad," he says, "the international situation is grim, the domestic outlook even worse. We need to brace ourselves for the storm that's brewing." The father, who had spent his entire life not reading newspapers, not listening to the radio, and certainly not watching television, was taken aback. He was a simple man who relied on his instinct and experience to navigate life. His son, however, had been to college. He had read the papers, listened to the radio, and watched the television. Surely, he must know more about the world than his old man. And so, the father took his son's words to heart. He believed in his son's educated prediction. The next day, he downsized his order for meat and buns. He took down the sign that had once proudly announced his delicious hot dogs to the world. His enthusiasm, which had been the driving force behind his successful business, seemed to wane. The changes didn't go unnoticed. The customers who had once flocked to his stand for his delicious hot dogs and infectious enthusiasm started dwindling. The once bustling stand began to echo with the silence of a business in decline. The father, looking at his shrinking customer base, sighed. And so the once thriving hot dog stand began to see fewer customers. The father, believing in his son's educated prediction, accepted this as the inevitable. The world, it seemed, was indeed heading towards a recession. Or was it? Was this the result of an impending economic crisis or the consequence of misplaced trust in education over experience? The answer, as we shall see, is not as straightforward as one might think. The result of their actions was a self-fulfilling prophecy. The once thriving hot dog stand, teeming with customers who loved the enthusiastic vendor, began to lose its sheen. The aroma of sizzling hot dogs that once drew people from far and wide started to fade. The vendor, who had once ordered more meat and buns in anticipation of his growing business, began to cut down his orders. The vibrant sign that had once proudly announced his presence was taken down. The enthusiasm that had once been his trademark began to wane. As the days passed, fewer and fewer people stopped at the hot dog stand, and the sales started to dip rapidly. The once bustling stand was now a mere shadow of its former self, a victim of a belief in a future that was yet to unfold. The vendor, once filled with optimism and enthusiasm, found himself in the throes of a downturn he had never anticipated. The father, who had always been proud of his son's education and intelligence, accepted this downturn as a reality. He was grateful to his son for having warned him about the impending recession. His son, a college graduate, surely knew better, he thought. After all, he read the papers, listened to the radio, and was aware of the international situation. The father thanked his son, attributing their downturn to his son's foresight of the impending recession. But as he did so, he failed to see the irony of the situation. The hot dog stand had not fallen victim to a recession, but to a belief in one. The father had not heeded his son's educated warning. He had surrendered to it. The thriving business had not succumbed to an economic downturn. It had succumbed to fear and doubt. Ironically, the father thanked his son, attributing their downturn to the son's knowledge of the impending recession. The irony was not just in the father's words, but also in the fact that education and intelligence, which were supposed to guide them, had ironically led them to their downfall. What can we learn from this tale? Let's take a moment to reflect on the roadside hot dog vendor and his well-educated son. This story highlights an essential truth. Intelligence and good judgment are not the same. A person may be highly intelligent, yet lack sound judgment. It's a reminder to choose your advisors carefully, to weigh their counsel against your own understanding and intuition. Moreover, this tale underscores the importance of qualities that contribute to success beyond formal education. The vendor's success before his son's intervention was not due to academic prowess, but stemmed from character, commitment, conviction, courtesy, and courage. Remember, intelligence is quick to learn, ability is skill to apply, but competence is the ability and desire to apply what is learned. Ability without the right attitude is wasted. So, does education always mean good judgment? You decide.
What's your next step towards greatness? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's inspire each other to reach new heights. Until next time, keep striving, keep growing, and keep believing in the power of your dreams.